Welcome to another Truth and Reconciliation Work Dialogue as we continue exploring what happens after nations and peoples have been divided and what it really takes to become whole again. Today, we travel to Germany 36 years after reunification to explore not only what happened when the Berlin Wall came down, but what may still be unfolding beneath the surface in the memory, identity, consciousness, and perhaps even the soul of a nation. I'm your host, Nilima Bhatt, and with me is Wiebke Hansen, a systems thinker, shamanic practitioner, and wanderer between worlds, whose work brings together mathematics, systems thinking, intuitive wisdom, and shamanic approaches to collective transformation. She's speaking to us today on Germany's soul, 36 years later. Wiebke, welcome. I'm very happy to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Nilima. We've had many very deep journeys, so I'm really, really happy to explore the journey of my country with you on this call.
Yeah, I've waited for this day for a long time. We are on the penultimate day of our Truth and Reconciliation Week this year. And it's so nice that your session kind of takes us to the other side. You know, we've spent the last few days still talking about lands that are still in the throes of suffering the trauma of partition. And so today, for your session to be on the kind of penultimate day, where we talk about the opposite side of it, you know, a country that has made the journey, the hero journey to finding the elixir of reunification, which seems so hard and almost unbelievable. And there are very, very few countries out there who've achieved it in modern times. Unfortunately, we have more cases of countries that have not achieved it, right? And so Germany is a great role model, and I'm so glad that we get to hear it from someone who carries so much depth, who will not just be able to talk to us as a German citizen, but who can talk to us also as a spiritual person and practitioner who has a shamanic lens that otherwise most people may not have a perspective on, right? So you've lived and worked with Germany's story from both analytical and intuitive perspectives. Rather than beginning with the history, could you take us into a personal experience, a moment, a place, an encounter, or even an intuition that made you sense that Germany was carrying something beneath the visible story of reunification? What did you sense? And how did that experience change the way you understood your own country?
Yes, thank you for this. You know, I grew up when it was still divided. So my sense for my country, when I imagined Germany, like in my inner eye, it was the smaller part, the western part of Germany. And during school times, one of the last years at school, we actually did a school journey to Berlin. And the way that happened was like you're all in the bus and then there is the border. And we were not really used to borders, and the teacher beforehand warned us they will be very strict. They will be very severe. And it was the first encounter with this other part of Germany, which didn't feel like a part of me, for me, like a part of me. It felt like really a strict situation, and you had to stay on the motorway. There were only definite stop points, and then there was another border before you entered Berlin. And in Berlin, of course, we went to see the wall. It was there. You could go up the stairs to a platform and look over it at like the Brandenburg Gate. You stepped there and you saw all this military equipment, and then there was the gate. So it was really a divided city, which was a very peculiar thing to experience. Going on the Metropolitan, some of the stations you couldn't get out, but you could see how different it looked to what Western Berlin was. So very strong impression of this difference. And then 12 years ago, in 2014, we went to Berlin for the WIN conference. I hadn't been really to Berlin that much in the meantime. Actually, the moment of the reunification in 1990, I moved to Italy. So I spent a lot of these years outside of my country. But when we came for the WIN conference, there was pulsing life everywhere. And you really needed to wonder, where am I east, am I west? The city was one. Even driving there were no borders. It was all the same. And we stood in front of the Brandenburg Gate, and there was no wall. There was only the metal, like a little sign in the road. You couldn't miss it if you didn't look for it. And it was gone. And that really, I hadn't realized how much of an inner divide that there was for me until I came to Berlin again and saw what impact it must have had on my parents, on my grandmother. They grew up in the bigger Germany. They lived through the wall, the building of the wall. They lived through that. And now it's open. So the significance of this split and reunification, that only became clear to me when we were in Berlin together.
Want to say more about that now or later?
We will say more about this later. This is one of the red threads of this talk.
Okay, excellent. So moving forward, the Berlin Wall came down in 1989 and Germany formally reunited in 1990. Yet, 36 years later, many people still speak of an invisible East-West divide. From what you have personally witnessed and sensed, what has genuinely healed and what still feels unresolved? Is there something beneath the political and economic story that we might miss if we only look at Germany from the outside?
Yes, indeed. So the outward systems it was amazing how quickly they moved together, like the social system, the political system. Imagine to move to the same system of zip codes or the number plates on the cars. That was done very well organized and very, very, very fast. I remember also they had, like after the war, there were like quick twin cities. You had cities that paired up and that exchanged so that really the people got to meet. They did that. It had happened with France. It had happened with the UK after the war, just to get Germany into a more peaceful setting again. And now with Eastern Germany, they did a similar kind of city twinning. So a lot of the things were done right. There was also after the war, they did Vergangenheitsbewältigung. It's like coming to terms with your past. So in the 40s and 50s, there were the Nuremberg trials. So those that had done wrong under the regime were punished. Now, something very similar happened also after the reunification. There was the Staatssicherheit, Stasi, the security police of the eastern part. And again, this was made open. There were trials. People found out who had talked about each other. So that was very similar. There were a lot of efforts going on. Now, yes, there still is a difference. There is still a better than, lesser than. So what happened in the reunification was not a growing together of two equals, but it was really perceived as the West won, and now we put our better system on the East, which leads to a kind of disadvantaged feeling for the people who grow up in the East. And so, for example, if you wanted to make a fast career in the 90s, you looked for a position in the East, be it the bank, be it public administration, everything. So that was kind of, that was a choice, really, because at the moment of reunification, there were two different approaches discussed. We have the chancellor, which was Mr. Kohl at the time, and we have also a president, a federal president. He's not very visible, and he carries really, he's the representative of the nation, of the people. He carries that impetus, that importance of the nation, whereas the chancellor is the executive branch. He's the sword, so to speak. And the president, he really had recommended a slower approach. A wise man at the time, Weizsäcker, he actually walked through the Brandenburg Gate when it was open, which I found highly, highly significant, symbolic and energetically significant. So he had advised on a slower approach of a slow growing together. Whereas Mr. Kohl, industry, economics, they wanted fast and they wanted to create facts. So he just took over, which leads to a still after all these years, a kind of a disadvantaged feeling. It's not, there's still animosity.
Are you saying the leader of the East Germany walked through the Brandenburg Gate slowly, or was it the other way around?
Other way around. It was the federal president.
So the leader of West Germany walked through the Brandenburg Gate slowly,
yes.
and the leader of East Germany wanted to move fast.
No, we have, if you want, there are two figures, and we don't only have one at the helm of everything. We have two.
No. The question I'm asking is, does one leader represent East Germany? Does one leader represent West Germany? Or are you talking about both West German leaders?
Both West German leaders.
Okay.
No, the Eastern part was not publicly visible what happened there. It was, the way I perceive it, they surrendered to their people because it was really a people's movement. Like they wanted them to come together. That is the big thing. It was the people, it was the nation that said, we belong together, which that is not recognized enough either, in my personal view. That is a huge thing, that a people rises peacefully and the government peacefully steps back. Obviously, the powers around it, the Allied forces, they agreed. We had Gorbachev at that time in the Soviet Union. So that might have gone differently if there was a different leader in one of the big powers. It was just
as I'm listening to you about, in India, the partition was not ideology-based. It was religion-based. It was about having a separate state for Muslims, whereas the German partition was ideology-based. There was capitalism and socialism. There was democracy versus communism, right? I mean, that was the kind of divide. It was an ideological divide versus, like, say, in India or Palestine, which is religion-based. Right?
It's a very important difference. I always viewed it as it was like the Allied forces worked together after the war, and they couldn't, and they split up Germany. And one of the reasons was also, I think, to like bring you to your knees, to lower the power, to make you less potent, so that the similar kind of danger that we had with the war wouldn't recur so quickly. And each part looked at their own little partition, and then the three allies, the Western allies, got together, and the Eastern Russia took their part, and they put their systems onto Germany.
Isn't that interesting? So in a way, Germany was colonized by Western ideals on one side and the Eastern Bloc on the other side. But what was Germany beneath and beyond those imposed structures?
An interesting question. You could go back to the beginning of when did Germany start, because it started like 2,000 years ago, the age of Caesar. The Romans, they called it the Holy Roman Empire of German nation, and there was the western part was the Roman Germania, and the eastern part was the Free Germania. Interesting as well, the Free Germania, that was the eastern part. And the partition then ran along the rivers that are still there, so the Rhine and the Elbe. So that was pretty similar. And we've been, I could say we've been colonized ever since.
Yeah, isn't it? Even I keep
Goes
thinking
back.
about this, like India, before we had 250 years of being a British colony, it was like a loose collection of princely states. But
Yes,
what made India India is it had a soul, and that spiritual thread that has the shared Sanatan Dharma, right? The shared Vedic culture and so on, which then, of course, was overlaid with other invaders. The Muslims came in and Christian missionaries and so on. But there was always a sense of India, which was a psycho-spiritual common ground for so many states that make up India, despite different language, different cuisines. But they have this common psycho-spiritual ground that is our culture, right?
in fact, I believe that psycho-spiritual ground was eradicated with the Christian religion. So of course, we also had like nation states. That's a bit mixed up. I can't get the timings together now. But there were obviously the Saxons and the more of a kind of, call it the Viking ancestry, or there were the Celts. So we did have our original European indigenous religion, which is more similar, I think, to what you have. That you really lived in every day. You had the rhythm. You had priests, yes, but it was all very close to nature. It was there, and it was destroyed in, I think, around 800, the times of Charlemagne, Karl der Große. There was a point he wanted to Christianize everything, and there was a moment when like 4,000 Saxon Germanic tribe warriors, they were killed. It was like either you convert to Christianity or you die, and they all wanted to die because they didn't want to become Christians. And that's a huge cut in my perception of the tribal way of life, let's say.
So interesting. I think we're beginning to enter the realm of soul of a people and a race and a nation. So to use the expression Germany's soul, I'd love you to take us into that idea through your own experience rather than simply defining it intellectually. Have you ever had an experience through your shamanic work, through a place, through your relationship with ancestors or the land, where you felt that you were encountering something larger than individual people, a kind of collective memory or consciousness? And if a nation could carry a wound, how might that wound make itself known?
So I'm taking you back to 12 years ago in Berlin when we were at the WIN conference. So the WIN conference is a 3-day women's conference. And 3 days where you look at the world, you look at business, and you look at yourself in the world, in the business. And 3 days that lead you with ideas about yourself and what you want to change, maybe. And you led the 5 elements dance. So 5 elements means you're dancing through earth, water, fire, air, ether. You dance out everything that you want to let go. And then you dance in that what you want to become. Ether, air, fire, water, earth. 800 women in Berlin on the reunification day of October 3rd under the full moon. Just imagine, if you have any inkling of energy, that was to be at the right time, at the right place. There was a conference room, big internal room, with a picture of the Brandenburg Gate. And after this dance, I was standing there vibrating. There was a friend next to me, and she just nudged me and said, "Can you see that? The gate has opened, and the goddess is back." And we could feel the energy of the goddess flowing back in. So that was the moment at the beginning of our tour. And then we took this energy, this essence, and you had it even in your bottle with the water, to Dresden, to Nuremberg, and to Rüdesheim, which is a small city along the River Rhine. And there's a monument, which is Germania. I knew it was there. I never really paid particular attention. So not one of the places. It's one of the places where your parents take you and you're just bored. But when we were there, I could feel her presence. That is one of the places in Germany where the spirit of the nation, the soul of the country, that's where it is anchored in my perception.
So like, just for our listeners, when we say India has a soul, Bhavani Bharti, Europeans had these similar ideas. That's why, Athens is named after Athena, the goddess Athena, or Europe is after Europa. So there's a goddess associated with a land or a people or a culture, an animating principle, an anima, right? And so Germania, as you say, is the goddess of Germany.
Yes.
The soul of Germany is Germania.
Yes.
You say that?
Yeah, I would say that. And she was already present on Roman coins. You have Roman coins with Germania on it. And there are pictures of Germania and Italia. So you have this in the different countries. And you were asking if it carries a wound, how might it make itself known, right? Here we come to the concept of soul loss from a shamanic perspective. So if I take the example of a person, so if a person goes through a very difficult period or a traumatic experience, say a car accident, and you go on with your life, and then it's like, I've not been the same since. I've not been the same since that accident. I've not been the same. And part of me is not here anymore. It's missing. And from a soul perspective, it's as if this piece of the soul stayed stuck in the accident, in the difficulty, in the traumatic situation. And I believe Germany has that because we are not the same that we were, let's say, in the 1800s, the country of Dichter und Denkers, the poets and the thinkers. So you had a Goethe, you had Schilling, you had Lesser, you had Bach. You might even say you had Mozart, even though he was Austrian. So there was an entire aspect of culture and of beauty and of art that I don't see today, and a self-confidence, maybe grow to a self-confidence of being German. Now we bow our heads. It's as if we're on our knees. We're in constant mourning, no, in constant regret or apology. It's like a constant apology. So we're not in the power that is needed at this time in the world.
For our listeners who may be young and don't know the history, the reason for that sense of apology with the head down is the Second World War and the Holocaust of the Jews and that shame, right?
Thank you. I just assumed people know still, but you're right.
You'd be surprised. People's memories are so short, and with today's education system, so much is lost and not passed on. So, you bring together systems thinking with shamanic and intuitive ways of knowing. Can you tell us about an experience where your intuitive or shamanic perception revealed something about a person, group, place, or system that conventional analysis alone could not have shown you? What does that teach us about the invisible dimensions of reconciliation?
Yeah, we're now taking a step to a different dimension of work. So I was working with a client, a care facility. So a lot of older people and the carers, and they had recently rebuilt their main building. And since, so they contacted me because they were at a point where there was a great unrest with the employees. People were leaving. They didn't get any kind of reply. of CVs sent in. So they were kind of really in a stuck place, and they asked me, could I have come and help them, because I worked as a consultant. And the important thing to notice was this is like an 80-year-old business, so family owned. They had very stable in the region, people know them, and but they had redone the main building, so they had put it down and then rebuild it. And since they moved back with all the clients and the carers into the main building, there was this difficulty. And what I perceived was, like we were talking about soul loss, right? So imagine a business has a soul that resides where? In the main building. Now, when you break down the main building, the soul doesn't have any place anymore to reside in. You rebuild it, but it's not that it automatically returns. It needs some kind of energetic, shamanic ceremony and intervention. So when I went there and I put a hand on the old wall, a hand on the new wall, and kind of called back in, like saying, this is your new home, please come back in. And that already helped to, this is like now in 2 minutes, right? So, but it's about the soul having the right place to be home. And that was the purely energetic part. Still, the employees were restless. It's like, oh, but everything's in a different place. And we used to meet here, was our central point. We don't have a central point anymore. And you could feel they were like disorganized. They had lost focus. Like, why do we do this work? And that was more kind of like a workshop of reminding them what is important. What is the main point of your work? It's the client, the well-being of our elders who are in this house. And it took a moment of realigning the focus on that. And then applications came in, the organization returned more to a normal state of functioning. Yeah, exactly.
Complete. You had something to say.
Yeah, and what does it teach us? This is like the missing a piece of the soul is not something you reach with rational analysis. You just notice things are wrong, and on paper everything is fine, but still it doesn't work. So what is that doesn't work? And we were talking about the reconciliation, and I think this has come up also in other moments. Truth needs to be on the table. And it's like the real truth, not the convenient truth, not just the paperwork, but this is right, and this is right, and this is right. That won't bring the reconciliation. You really need to have someone with a clear sight and the courage to address also uncomfortable truths and put it on the table. It's only then that you can find the solutions.
As I'm listening to you, Wiebke, I'm struck again by how much I respect your moral fiber, your integrity. It's always been a joy to walk with you. I've known you for so many years, and we'll talk more about that incredible trip of 2014 later at the end of this call.
Yeah.
Perhaps the challenge of reunification is not simply to become one Germany, but to allow two very different experiences of Germany to belong within one whole. What have you learned about the importance of allowing both sides to be seen and honored? Can true reconciliation happen without making one side's experience the dominant one? And what might Germany's experience teach other societies living with their own partitions?
Yeah, indeed, we're coming back to what we said at the beginning. Do you, in the case of Germany, it was the western part was considered to have won over the eastern part. So we're taking over, we're doing everything, we're making you like us. And that hurts people, because they've lived their life in the place they were born, in the system they were born into. Some may go away, but even there you couldn't, because you couldn't travel freely. And now with this big effort of becoming free, then you're told that your entire life wasn't good. So there's a lot of resentment building. There needs to be respect for the life lived, because it was as it was without the judgment. As an example, when I was little, we always had this Sandmännchen, this little figure, the sandy man, the one who puts the sand in your eyes so that you sleep. And it was like in the evening, 6 o'clock p.m. was Sandmännchen time, and you're allowed to watch that, and then you need to go to bed. And apparently they had the same thing in the eastern part of Germany. Now, among the many things where the West was taken as an example, here was something they took from the East. So Sandmännchen now is the eastern part of, is the eastern figure, the eastern music, the eastern way of doing it. So when the first time when I listened to that Sandmännchen, I was like, but that's not my Sandmännchen. That's not right. That's not right. A visual response to something that in the great things of life seemed to be so minuscule. And still, it showed me how important it is to honor both sides and to make just take away the judgment and say, what have we both achieved? In East Germany, the women, they all had jobs. The kids were taken care of, and they were rising in the ranks like the men were, And we lost that. We lost that. You could see it at the beginning in conversation rounds, in TV discussion forums. The women were the ones who took the word. They were the ones leading. Like, I'm speaking generally. That's just a memory that I have, and we lost that. That didn't persist. Well, one thing persisted. We got an Eastern woman as a chancellor. So in a way, with Dr. Merkel, we had a good chance of achieving further integration, and maybe we did. It's just that now it's time for the next step.
I did not know Angela Merkel was from East Germany.
Yes.
That explains a lot to me now of her leadership.
Yes.
She was very social as a leader, right? She was very inclusive, and so yeah, that's so interesting.
So she was born in Germany, in Hamburg, which is west, but her parents were priests, pastors, from like evangelical priests, and they moved to the east of Germany, and that's where she was brought up. And I sometimes think, well, she didn't have this being held back by being a woman that we have. She just walked her path, and she went into physics, because that you can't tell lies in physics. It's a scientific fact. And then after when the reunification came, she decided to do something for her country. So she was very in the country. She did a lot of, I think she had a strong moral compass.
The impression we have is that if you're socialist or communist, you don't necessarily allow religion in your structure. But you're telling me that her parents were priests. That's interesting. Yeah. There's so many truths, right? There's so many layers. I was talking to a speaker from Kashmir yesterday, and she was saying it's not so black and white, There are so many perpetrators, there are so many victims, and there are so many layers to trauma of partition, So there's no clear cut, this was East Germany and this was West Germany, and this was where you had religion and this where you did not have religion. And, this is where the structure was more inclusive, and that is where the structure was more, capitalistic. I mean, it's not necessarily as clean cut as that, isn't it?
It's not as clean cut, no.
Yeah.
And, I think it was difficult with religion in the West, in the eastern part, but it existed, and actually a lot of critical thinking happened there.
Interesting. So if we look at Germany today through the lens of collective healing, what do you sense is asking to happen next? What might Germany need to remember, release, integrate, or reclaim in order to become more whole? And if you allow yourself to listen intuitively to Germany as a living system, what do you feel its soul is asking for now?
I've said a while with that question, yes. We have already mentioned bits and pieces. Not the religious aspect, but the spiritual aspect is important, and that has been completely overlooked. And one of my teachers used to say, the soul moves slowly. So the mind goes like this. We decide this, we do the zip codes, we do the systems, da, 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 da. But the soul needs time. It's like this famous saying of the grass doesn't grow faster if you pull it. It breaks. So maybe we're not late. Maybe there was no mistake. Maybe the outer systems are in place now. We need to honor the people. One thing I really feel, what I said before, Germany is, we're not standing in our power. We're not empowered right now. We're in a kind of moaning, and it's just not, we're not really in our power. So the big picture I always get is as if Karamania is on her knees. Now, if you think about a personal healing journey, at least that's how I perceived it, you need to acknowledge your mistakes. You need to acknowledge what you did wrong and take responsibility for it, for your past, take responsibility for your past, and then make peace with yourself. It happened. It happened. Make peace with yourself so that you can move on. A little reminds me of the Ho'oponopono. And this is where I see the country is stuck. We have acknowledged our past. It's another past where East and West are different. There's a great attention to the guilt Germany has put on itself with its history, and we are taking responsibility for it, but we have not made peace with it. We have not said, this is what happened, and now we move on. We are still there. It's what did we do? What did we do? What did we do? And all the other countries obviously do that as well to us. So that's really the next step, a kind of integration of what happened. And unless we integrate it, we will keep carrying it forward, and we will still stay stuck in this kneeling position, I'd say. And
yeah, complete.
Just to circle a little bit back is about the difference in looking at our history between East and West is one of the very big differences that I still see, and that expresses itself now through the different political parties, and we're not going to go in that. In my upbringing, there was always at school, the question was Hitler's come to power legal? Did he legally come to power? And the answer is yes, he used all the laws of the moment, and then he did what he did. And it was always this, remember, we cannot let this happen again. We cannot let this happen again. And when I was 16, 17 years old, we went to Berlin. And when my daughters went to school 30 years later, same questions. And they went to Berlin or they went to a concentration camp. So we still teach this to our younger generation, that we carry guilt. The Western part was different. You had a totalitarian system with Hitler, and then came the next totalitarian system. And the bad guys are the fascists in the West. So there was not this owning of what happened during the Nazi time in the Western countries. So there's a different view on history for 45 years that does something. So there is a difference within the soul now that is, I'm not quite sure how to heal that and how to integrate that. Maybe we don't see everything and they don't see everything,
I'm a little confused when, you're saying, was it West Germany that was able to own the grief or the shame or whatever it is of what Hitler did, his legacy, and Not so much East Germany?
Right.
Okay. Because East Germany had another villain to point fingers at. That's
Exactly.
the
Yes.
Western fascism and so on, right? Is that it?
Right. Right.
Oh gosh, it's just all these isms and things that labels that we allow, to create the polarizations and find a villain and not look within, right?
Exactly. Well, that is if you want, that's the commonality. We both don't do that. Well, some we do, but we stopped at the guilt part, which is not healing.
Mm. And therefore, if you remember, maybe we can talk now about what you and I did in 2014, right? Like,
Yes.
we had met in Prague the year before,
Yeah.
in 2013 at the WIN conference. And then we did briefly get along, and I reached out to you when the 2014 WIN conference came, and it was to be in Berlin. And I don't know what made me reach out to you, saying you were the one German woman I met in that conference, and we are now going to be in Germany. And instead of just coming back after a 3-day event, I felt something more needed to be done. And I called you and I said, this is what I sense. It was a very, very intuitive, nebulous sensing that Germany carries guilt and shame, but the world soul cannot be healed until Germany's soul is healed. And Germany's soul cannot be healed as long as it carries the shame and guilt. So how do we help the soul of Germany release the shame and guilt so that Germany can rise and bring that unique piece of the planetary soul that it holds? And until it shows up with that, the soul of the planet is incomplete, right? So I didn't even know what I was articulating, but I remember calling you and wanting to talk it through. And I remember you hearing me and you were in tears. And then you said, but Nilima, why would you want to do that for Germany? Like, you were seeing me as an Indian woman and thinking, why do you want to help Germany? And you were very touched by this invitation I was giving you. But looking back 12 years later, I can now join the dots, and this work for truth and reconciliation, that even though I kind of initiated it after the George Floyd killing in 2020, I think the work began perhaps with that Germany, the tour around different places in Germany that you so beautifully curated, and how we went from place to place where perhaps the most pain sat in the land. And then you would cast your medicine wheel and I would do my water healing work. And we didn't know what we were doing. We were completely following the intuition. And we ended with Extersteiner,
Yes.
which was supposed to be the place where Hitler used to come and meditate, and where he would perhaps anchor all those dark energies into those rocks. And you and I just went intuitively and did the work of cleansing, clearing, healing those rocks. And that was our last day. And as we started driving out, I remember it was about a week of driving. And I remember speaking to the mother and praying to her to say, I have no idea what we just did this whole week, Mother. We were just following inner guidance, intuition. But if whatever it is we were supposed to do has been done, please show us a rainbow. And it was not rainy season. There was no rain, nothing. There was no chance of there being a rainbow, actually. And within a couple of hours, very casually, you pointed your finger and you said, look, Nilima, a rainbow. And then there was a big rainbow to the right of us, and a big rainbow to the left of us, and then a big rainbow to the front of us. And I remember you and I just being in utter awe that these elements responded to our prayers and the shamanic work, the yogic work that two women just inspired. drove around Germany and Chartres in France, and there was rainbow at the end of it. So the reason I'm sharing this story, of course, is to relive the joy of that, the wonder of that, the sense of empowerment that actually just one or two people can make a difference if they do it sincerely. And also to honor the work of shamanism, right? And the work of, yoga that two of us are lineage holders of. And we are trained in what we are trained in, and we did what we were trained to do. And we saw an outcome of that, right? So that was 12 years ago, and we were beginning to heal the soul of Germany and reclaim the soul loss. I'm not sure you had the language at that time.
I couldn't have voiced that clearly 12 years ago. No. And if you think about, there are like lineage holders or indigenous teachers coming to Germany or to Europe, to Germany since the 80s, 90s, to liven up, to wake up the indigenous, they call it the indigenous lineages, like I said before, that were cut out. And I think a lot of work is done. It's not coordinated, and maybe that's the right thing. Like we didn't coordinate with anybody. We did our part, and it's Germania who knows what each has to do, right? And remember what was his name from Hawaii, who said that
Kumu Ramsey.
Yes, Kumu Ramsey, who talked about Oponopono.
Yes.
And that his teacher during the last period of her life did this for the German unification.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes.
That touched me deeply. And I just think we're not done. She healed, or she created the possibility for the first step. And now we did another step, and now the next thing needs to come. The next thing needs to come.
Those listeners who were not on the call with Kumu Ramsey, the recordings are available on YouTube. He's a Hawaiian healer, and he was telling us how his master, he calls her Auntie Morna, how towards the last 5 years of her life, she said, I have to do a lot of important work to kind of heal the separation of Germany and to bring down the Berlin Wall. And so every day it's about taking responsibility. If something is in your awareness, whatever it is, if it shows up, it's a sign that a part of that is in you, that what you're seeing on the outside is a reflection of the sources inside you. So if she discovered that there is a Berlin Wall, then she says, oh, if this has come to my awareness, I'm going to make it pono. I'm going to heal it on the inside. So please forgive me, whatever it is in me that's causing this wall and separation between two people. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. I love you. I thank you. And I welcome it back into the highest light, right? And she did that practice for 5 years, and then the Berlin Wall came down. And, of course, the skeptics will always say, oh, what does one have to do with the other? But those who know. And as those of us who work in the energetic realm, we do know about the correspondences and the equivalencies, right? As above, so below, as inside, so outside. So what you do at the level of the microcosm will have an impact at the level of the macrocosm. And that's really what Ho'oponopono is based on, right?
Right.
You heal it inside, and then it has a chance.
You heal your inner division, so that the division in the outside will also be healed. Yes.
Yeah.
Which really touched me a lot, because there is some inner division in my family. There is. So where is that in me?
Yes.
So I'm actually he really inspired me to look a bit deeper there.
And it's not even about looking, it's about making it pono, not just doing those affirmations 5 minutes in the morning when you wake up, 5 minutes in the night before going to bed, just cleaning up the inside.
Yes.
with those affirmations. You don't even need to know. You can just say whatever it is in me that has caused this division that I'm seeing or experiencing in my life. It's coming from within. So whatever that is, please forgive me. I'm sorry. I love you. I thank you. And I welcome it back into the light, into love, into my highest consciousness, whatever is wholeness for you, you know? Oh, so that brings me to the last question. Our Truth and Reconciliation theme is partition of nations. Germany's story is different from the partition of India, but perhaps there are patterns that speak across very different histories. After everything you have experienced and sensed through your work, what is the deepest lesson Germany can offer other divided societies? And what gives you hope that human beings can actually learn to become whole after separation?
Well, our friendship gives me hope. And we briefly touched on this before, right? This difference of the lived spirituality in India and the lack of thereof in Germany. And there is the underlying truth. There's the underlying energetics that you do need to look at. You cannot, it's not only on 3D that you need to move together. That's the one piece of it. And as we were speaking, I thought, if your separation is on the religious part, still we're all human, right? So look at really what is the underlying disease. What is underneath that is still churning, and look at that as well in the process of your unification. Don't just gliss over it like we did. And I also think the meeting between the single people, between the persons, the citizen is really, really, really important. That's one thing that we did well. Yeah.
And to just go back in time, Germany was divided into East and West at the end of World War II, which is 1945. Am I right?
Right.
And then it was reunified in 1990. That's 45 years.
Right.
That's almost 2 generations.
And still there was the drive in the soul of the people to come together. I always marveled at that, yes. So what does that do with India and Kashmir or Pakistan? That's a lot longer, right?
No, almost. Well, we're not reunified. So, you know, India's partition was 1947 when we got independence. At the time of independence in 1947, we were divided into India and Pakistan,
Right.
along the lines of religion. And Kashmir became a disputed territory from that day on and has not known peace, you know. But you have gone ahead and people to people said, we don't want 2 states, we want to reunify. And that's why the government of East Germany said, okay, and it had the sanction from Russia to do so, right? Because
Right.
the Soviet Union itself was breaking down around that time. So it was like many convergences took place
Right.
for reunification to be possible. Whereas perhaps in India, there are still many divergent forces at work in the region, you know, but who knows, you know, there's always this invisible realm. And as you say, if each of us does our part, who knows what is the buildup of those forces on the side of wholeness and evolution of consciousness. Maybe that one day suddenly appears as the tipping point, you know. I think one of Sri Aurobindo's lines is, and God shall grow up as the wise men talk and sleep. You know, so it's like while we're all busy having this conversation, boom, suddenly there'll be a moment and that new thing will come to light, you know. There's always that X factor to, you know,
Yeah.
hope and pray for, right? That Why should we put our faith in fear, as Kumu said, that bad things will happen? Why don't we put our faith in faith and hope that
Good
something
thing.
good will happen?
Yeah.
We have a nice question here from Uma. She says, thank you, Wiebke. What work do you still see awaited? Perhaps for yourself, but also for Germany.
I think it needs a lot more this. I think the women need to step up. Naming the truth and like being public, also with our kind of work, the respect towards the other. Actually, when I tuned in to our conversation before, just like maybe another tour is in order to tour to get the drummers of Germany together, like really drum together for the health of the soul, something like that, and maybe get the representatives of each of our regional states. We're a federation, right? And to have a representative from each one of them to do this soul level work of unifying and of modeling respect.
This is also building into tomorrow's final call for this year's Truth and Reconciliation Week. We have Douglas Tolkien, who's going to talk about looking at our lands and our so-called nations at a bioregional level. So just like a nation has a soul has a bioregion through which it expresses itself. There is a land that's the body of the soul.
Yeah.
Right. So, and we have gone and chopped up the bodies of souls of nations. If you look at India, it's like we've cut her hands off. We've cut off the hand, which is Pakistan on one side, and we cut the other hand in Bangladesh on the other side. It's like, you know, the soul of India, Bhavani Bharti, that entire bioregion, she's made up of mountains and rivers and watersheds. And, you know, it's like the bioregion is the waters of that land that are like the channels through which the soul force flows. So up until where it flows, just like the artery and, you know, the veins of a body, the circulatory system, you know, will flow to the edges of your skin and your boundary. And that's what gives your body its integrity and its, you know, sense of self. So he's going to talk about looking at the soul of a nation like Germany, and he's going to talk about looking at bioregion as the body of the soul of a country.
The body of the nation. The
Yes.
body of the nation, yes.
We have a nice comment here. Let me read it out. Thea Zamat, she says, thank you for this beautiful talk. I have myself witnessed the tears, grief, regret, and tears flowing from German people regards to their past. I have a feeling that what Germany also needs is a huge embrace from the people outside of their borders to say it's all right, it's all forgiven. As Sri Aurobindo said, we don't belong to the past dawns, but to the noons of the future. May Germany heal.
That brings me to tears. Thank you.
I think whoever's on the call, if we can all come on camera now, we can spend a few minutes and we can unmute ourselves, and maybe we begin with sending that love and forgiveness to Wiebke as the holder of a piece of Germany's soul. We can do the Ho'oponopono, which we heard yesterday, day before. So you can repeat after me. Dear Wiebke and dear Germany,
Dear Wiebke, dear Germany,
whatever it is in me
Germany,
whatever it is in me
whatever is in me
that has led to the division and reunification trauma,
that has led to the division and unification drama,
that Germany may still be holding,
that
And Germany may
still be holding,
that you may still be holding.
that you may be,
that you may still be holding.
Please forgive me.
please forgive.
Please
forgive.
I am sorry.
I am,
sorry.
I love you.
I love
I
you.
love you.
I thank you.
I
I
thank,
thank you.
I welcome us back
I welcome us back
into the light,
Into the light,
into the truth,
into
into
the,
the truth,
into the oneness,
into the,
into the oneness,
into love.
into love.
Love.
We breathe 3 times, count to the 7, inhale, hold 7, exhale 7, hold 7, inhale 7, hold 7, exhale 7, hold 7, inhale 7, hold 7, exhale 7, hold 7. Relax, take a deep breath, and release all remaining tightness and tension anywhere in your body. As you scan your body, become aware if there is any residue sitting anywhere. Become aware if it's in your throat or your heart or in your belly. Gently bring your awareness to it. Relax the area around it. Breathe into it. Love it. Accept it. Let it be a part of your own energy, seeking to be dissolved. Hold space for it until it can move again where it needs to go and flow on. You can speak to that part of yourself. Please forgive me. I am sorry. I love you. I thank you. I'll let you flow into the light. Whatever energies of shame or guilt or regret, just allow them to dissolve and flow on. Like every inhale and exhale, may these energies flow on through the free breath of life that moves through you. As Kumu taught us, may we forgive and forget. The operative word being to give and to get. As we are breathing, may we give, release all that which needs to be released.
Yes.
And may we get all that which is waiting to come back into our wholeness. I will ask Wiebke to receive this blessing. In whatever form that feels appropriate for her, on behalf of herself and Germany.
Thank you.
Thank you. There is no other. When one becomes whole and healed, each becomes whole and healed. Are there any more thoughts or questions or sharing? We can take maybe another few minutes before we close.
Actually, my video has been
Let me put you back on.
Yeah.
Nivedita, can you put Poonam Chokani's video on?
Just a minute. Just a minute. I'll try. Yes. Okay. I asked her to start the video. It should start. Yes,
Yeah.
it's on.
Welcome,
Yeah.
Poonam.
Yes. So I wanted to point out, Nilima, that regarding India and Pakistan coming together, I had read Mother's in one of her correspondences or like writings. A sadhak asked her once, what do you think or see? I mean, exact words I will not recollect because I read the passages long years back. So, what do you say of Pakistan? She said, I see no Pakistan. Then she went into a trance and then she came back and said, I see India and Pakistan will come together someday, not immediately, but it will take a few years, but it will not come through war. It will come through the people of Pakistan who would like to be a part of India back once, like Germany came like that. Same way when uh, you mentioned Germans themselves, they wanted to come together. So that reminded me of Mother's words when she said that they will reunite because the people of Pakistan will be dissatisfied and would like to come back, but they will not be joining together, they will be like forming a federation in the form of federation word she used. And we see today that in Pakistan itself, Balochistan, Sindh, Punjab don't want to be with Pakistan and want to be, be separated. And people of Pakistan themselves are not very happy with the government, as there's no jobs and other you must be knowing what is happening there. So that reminded me, like similarly, one day, because mother, if we remember the playground, the map of India where mother used to sit in front, it is having Pakistan, it is a one map with Pakistan, not split or other parts also. So it reminded me when she spoke about, Wiebke spoke about Germany, how they reconciled and came together. One day, it will take time, mother said. So I just wanted to point out that, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. And for India now, this 15th August will be 79 years of independence and partition. So, Germany was able to reunify after 45 years, and India is still looking quite far from it at 79 years. But who knows? Suddenly something is possible.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, maybe to close us out, Wiebke, you can talk about the 12-year Jupiter cycle.
Yes, we said that right away in 2026, and our tour was in 2014, which is 12 years. And the planet Jupiter changes sign once a year. So it takes 1 year and then it moves to the next sign, which means Jupiter's the planet of expansion, of forward movement, it's like it's really helping you move in your life. And so every 12 years, you have a similar theme in the overarching year. And the theme of 12 years ago was to move through Germany, and here we are again. So, which makes me think I need to move again. And it's interesting to look at your life in these 12-year segments, like what happened 12 years ago, what happened 24 years ago, what happened 36 years ago, reunification. And see whether you find similar topics. And you could even, so it goes through the entire astrological wheel. So now we're in Leo, and 3 years back we were in Taurus. So it's like you can, for each year, you look at the key events that happened. And so what happened like 11 years ago, so you could see what will happen next year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can kind of see
Correspondences.
the spiral of your life. Yeah.
Come back to the same point, but at the next octave, so to speak.
Exactly.
The next 12 weeks, unit of 12. So wonderful. Any words from Katerina?
No, just gratitude. Thank you for putting this together, and thank you, Wiebke, for sharing with us such insights.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Wiebke, you've invited us to look beyond the walls that history builds in the visible world, and to listen for the walls and wounds that remain within collective memory and consciousness. Perhaps reconciliation is ultimately the work of bringing what has been separated back into relationship and allowing the soul of a people to become whole again. Thank you for helping us listen to that deeper story. It's been an utter delight, Wiebke. So much love and respect for who you are and how you hold your work with such integrity.
Thank you. Thank you for being in my life.
With that, good day, good evening, good night, wherever everyone is, and hope to see you tomorrow on our last call of Truth and Reconciliation Week. It will start at 8:30 p.m. IST. Much love, everybody.
Thank you.
Gratitude again, Wiebke. Bye-bye.
Bye.